So, welcome to Classical Chat's review of The Crown Season 4. We are at episode 2,
The Balmoral
labeled,
test.
yes, very ominous, the
Yeah.
Balmoral test. So, walking in, what were your first impressions of the episode?
My very first impression was, is that deer animated? Because it's not very good CGI.
They
They
tried, but
tried.
it was obvious. It's obviously CGI.
Um,
But I can understand why, because PETA would be all over them if there was a
yeah.
wounded deer.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Yeah.
I understand. My first thought, my very first notice. Oh my God, dogs! We finally get to see the corgis.
Well, that's my list of notes. One is the deer animated. Two, it got away! Exclamation point. Three, Corky's in a castle. I'm in love.
Yes, yes. So this episode, titled "The Balmoral Test," we see the two new protagonists, the Prime Minister and Lady Diana Spencer, go to Balmoral. Now,
Yes.
What do you know about Balmoral?
Nothing. It's in Scotland, I think.
Yes, yes,
Yay.
it is in Scotland.
It's
It is
pretty.
in Scotland. It is Balmoral Castle is one of the Queen's private
Yeah.
residences. The grounds are open to the public, but the castle is not. And it much like the Royal Yacht Britannia, it is an area where they are free from the media, they're alone by themselves, and they can actually interact as a family. It was bought by Prince Albert, and Prince Albert completely redid it, rebuilt it. This is basically Prince Albert's gift to Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
And Queen Victoria fell in love with it, and it is now, and it had been a tradition since Queen Victoria that every season, so when Parliament closes, in between that like 6 week period between the end of July and the beginning of September, the Queen and the royal family, they open and they have royal ascot, and then they go to Balmoral for all the summer. And it's a very big honor and this is how you know if you're close to the family, if you get invited to Balmoral. Now, most, if not all, the prime ministers in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure about now because Ms. Rona. I don't know if Boris has been invited to Balmoral, but it's a big honor to go because you get to actually interact with not only the Queen and Philip and the immediate family, but
Hmm.
a lot of extended, the Dukes of Gloucester and Kent come, Prince and Princess Michael of Kent come, in some cases, Lord and Lady Snowdon, now that Princess Margaret has since
Yeah.
passed, but it was always a big deal. And we see the Queen extend an invitation to the Prime Minister to come,
Yes.
much like in tradition. What were your thoughts seeing Margaret Thatcher in those scenes when she is there? What were some of your thoughts?
So my initial thoughts are, I feel this woman. I have no idea what's going on. And it's just like, oh, I'm going to hang out with a queen at a castle. Yes, this is what I'm going to be packing. I'm not expecting to bring, shooting gear to wear and outside shoes. And I mean, that's just me though. And I don't
Hmm.
have that kind of vast history and knowledge of the royal family. But um, if you look at the place and you look at the land of the estate, of course they're going out hunting. It's part of what they do. So it makes sense to me, but I also like, I get it. I get it.
Hmm.
I get it, Maggie. I get it.
Yes. Oh, very much so. I felt so bad for her. I loved that you could visibly see that her and her husband were very much out of their element. And I also loved the color story that they were telling. So the prime minister and her husband were sort of in kind of brighter colors
Yeah.
then they were very much, dressed as, like sort of like business people.
Hmm.
And the queen and everybody else, they're in, greens and brown, even when they're in their shooting gear, but even outside that, the
Yeah.
color story they told where they look very much like outsiders.
Yeah.
And my heart hurt. I was like, this looks, I very much felt how uncomfortable. And one thing though that was true, so there's an interaction where she goes out. They first arrive and they're given a protocol sheet. This is
Hmm.
very true. This is
Yeah.
very much true to life. Where when I read about them specifically, the queen used to have these long weekends. You'd come on a Friday, you'd leave Sunday night at Windsor, and they would be
Hmm.
these one things, and you would be shown to your room, and you get this protocol sheet, and here's what's happening, here's how things go, here's how you bow, blah 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 blah. And so that I'm not surprised by. I've
No.
read about that, and I believe I found where I can procure a replica of like all the different ones that just to
Hmm.
kind of show how protocol has changed. But that is very true to life. So I very much appreciated, Margaret Thatcher and her husband are not of this life.
No.
They were
Absolutely not.
not, they're not aristocrats. They're not least the type of landowning people. So I appreciated it felt, Margaret Thatcher has a soliloquy moment when they're at
Hmm.
these Highland games and she's like, I hate this here. And I appreciated that, she got to just audibly say it.
Yeah.
I'm out of my element. I don't know what I'm doing. She
Yeah.
does it though. There is a chair in Balmoral that no one, that is very true. There is a chair that no one is allowed to sit in. That is Queen Victoria's chair. That is real.
Wow.
And I don't know if Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher sat in it. I do
Hmm.
not know if the interaction was real,
Yeah.
but there is a
That
chair in
chair is
Balmoral
real.
that that is a very real chair. You do not
Wow.
sit in that chair. The last one, yep. So that. What did you think of the games they were playing, like the family games? What did you think of those?
What was my note exactly? Oh God, this drinking game is awkward.
Oh my god, where they have like the stamps on their face. I want to
Yeah.
know how to play that because that looks
I
fun.
It looks like a
That looks
lot of
fun.
it looks like a lot of fun, but it's something like obviously the family has been playing this for years. They know how to do it. They're doing it quickly and the queen mother's face is all covered in stamps because she keeps messing up. But which I love the endearingness of this and just seeing the queen with stamps on her face because she's made mistakes and she's imperfect, but she's just having fun with her family doing this. And it's just like, this feels like something that would be so much fun if you all kind of started to learn it together, or even as the children of the family are starting to get old enough to kind of participate in this, teaching them and realizing, okay, we're going to have to start at a slower pace for them. But having this older woman come in and be like, I have no idea. And it's just like, it's not like the family was trying to help teach her in any way. It's just like, just watch and catch on. And
Yeah,
for some,
like pick up, and if you get it, if you feel confident, jump right in.
yeah. But otherwise, but she kind of got thrown into it a little bit because I believe, so it's kind of like you have Iddle Diddle.
Yeah, like it'll diddle one, it'll diddle to the two. It's a very rhythm based game.
Yes, very much so. And so it's everybody in the room, I believe, has a number. And so she was one. And so I believe it was the queen mother who called one. And
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because it started at Anne, it then moved to the Queen Mother,
queen
and
mother
then it went
screwed
to
up.
Margaret
And
Thatcher,
yeah.
and then I got uncomfortable, started writing, and then I believe it went to Princess Margaret after that. But that was so
Yes,
uncomfortable because they're like
it
trying to
was.
encourage her, and she
She's
just
just like not having it. Not having it.
she's
She's trying ish, but it's obvious that she was not paying full attention to try and get it up to be ready to play with them. She was just
mm,
kind of observing, watching this, almost thinking, WTF? And suddenly her number gets called, and it's just like, oh my God, you're going to make me do this. Okay, this is awkward. Let me try it. One iddle diddle to 10
to
iddle diddle from 10 iddle diddle to 4 diddle iddle from what?
To something something
Yeah,
yeah, it's like it.
it's
I would want to know how to play this game because I have
yes.
a feeling if you get a bunch of music majors in a room and show them how to do it, this would be fire.
Oh, we already
Hmm.
have so many fun drinking games already,
Oh
but
yes.
we don't
Oh
need any
yes.
more. But we can always learn one more.
Oh yes. But I appreciated that the the show didn't stray away from the filming and the editing and how they did it, that they didn't stray away from pointing out that she's a fish out of water here. This is not a
Absolutely.
life she knows. This is not a world she's been pre-exposed to. And I did appreciate that, the show, the queen pointed out, well, Wilson was from a similar humble upbringing and, blah, blah, blah. And he got along here just fine. We got along
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that the show wasn't afraid to be uncomfortable. Those scenes were
Yes.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The dinner scene and when she goes out shooting and she goes, don't wear bright colors, don't
Don't
wear
wear perfume.
perfume, make sure you have these type of shoes.
Yeah.
My heart hurt because, in some way, shape, or form in all of our lives, we have been that fish out of water.
Hmm.
And it just never strayed away from it. It
No.
never. And I like that, she's wearing like purples and blues to really sort of stick out against, and everybody's wearing like greens and purple. She wore purple too, but patterns and,
The the queen and the royal family are wearing very muted earth tones.
mhm.
Margaret Thatcher is wearing jewel tones. And
Yes.
it's not both of them both of both sides wear a purple. Margaret Thatcher's is an amethyst jewel tone purple, while the family's is
Hmm.
more of a mauvey muted purple.
Hmm. So I appreciated, this first half and this storyline of the episode because there's two storylines going. One with,
Yes.
of course, as we would expect, one with Margaret Thatcher and one with Diana. And the one with Margaret Thatcher, I very much appreciated that when she was with the family, that color story, that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't really fit in here. I don't belong. This
Absolutely.
isn't a world. And I also appreciated that her whole Stella got her groove back moment and she fired at almost
Oh my
everybody in her
god.
cabinet
Yeah.
because, she's trying to, we see a little bit of politics here. We see that she's trying to enact a whole bunch of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and there's, the old white men are there going no, 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 which, sidebar, one of them, if you are on, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but there's a British show called Murder Maps,
Oh
which is a
yes,
true
I love
crime
murder
show.
maps.
Yeah, yeah, well, the host is one of the guys
Oh
that
my
gets
god, I
fired.
didn't realize that. I
Yeah,
didn't realize
I was
that.
like, I recognize his face. It's like, I recognize his face. I recognize his voice. And I kind of looked, I was like, oh my God, it's the host of Murder Maps. he's, he's one of the MPs on her cabinet. So, we see, that Margaret's, the prime minister is trying to enact a whole bunch of change.
Yeah.
She's trying to get this policy, this stuff. She's trying to make Britain self-sufficient. She's trying to make it independent and be its own thing. And they're all basically looking at her going, what do you know? You're inexperienced. You're not, how can you do this? And when she's away at Balmoral, they do a bunch of TV interviews and they go, we need a new prime minister. She doesn't know
Yeah.
what she's doing. She's too inexperienced. And being out like a fish out of water there was this spark for her that she then just fires everybody, goes,
Yeah.
girl, bye, and gets a whole bunch of new, younger people in.
Yeah.
Which, in some ways, being a young person, I was like, oh, it's nice to see, someone that I relate to in,
Yeah.
in that position. But I can also see where sort of, in some ways, the show's sort of, there was always this tension when you saw those scenes. So the Margaret Thatcher storyline, while compelling and fun and is important and relevant, it just made me uncomfortable,
Yeah. It was
which
a
was the
relief.
point.
Exactly. It was the point. And it was a relief then when we switched over to any of the Princess Diana based plot point.
Yes. It was very much a like, oh, okay.
Huh.
And I watched earlier today, I watched a YouTube video that was Emma Corrin spending time with this episode. She was really
Mhm.
explaining. And why I love that you pointed out the stag, because she went, we were explained with the script that this stag and this deer is underlying symbolism for Charles and I. It's like,
Yeah.
we are this, we in some ways are this. That's what we were told and everything. So the show opens up and we see very quickly after Margaret Thatcher goes to Balmoral, Charles and Diana are on a date.
I love this so
And
much.
I know, and they're seeing La Traviata.
Yes. The scene opens and you can hear the soprano singing, and I just hear the words "estrano," and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's
I
Traviata!" Which,
had to I had to pause it and I was like, I've heard this before. I've heard this, and I rewinded it and went. I was like, Google, what is this? And it showed. I was like, oh, this is what it is. It's La Traviata. Okay.
so for me, those of you who listen to our podcast know that I'm a classical singer. I'm an opera singer. We're both classical musicians. That's why it's called Classical
Yep.
Chats. Fun fact. But for me, Estrano is the recitative that leads into Sempre Libera, which is
Mm-hmm.
Violetta's big aria, realizing that she is now in love and falling in love, and she doesn't want to live that kind of life. She wants to be a free spirit, which is also very telling because it's very much the kind of idea that Charles is having. He would much rather live the bachelor lifestyle. Now,
And be free.
Violetta is talking about wanting to be free and living her own lifestyle. She's a courtesan, which is very, very different than being a prince. But the general lifestyle that both of them are trying to go after, quote unquote, is very similar, which I find very fitting for whoever
Mm-hmm.
chose this.
And also, it's even more fitting because doesn't the leading soprano at the end of La Traviata
Absolutely.
dies tragically.
Yes.
So I find it very interesting and very deliberate that they chose
Mhm.
La Traviata. I was
Yes.
like, oh, we have this person wanting to be free, wanting to be courtesan, and then the lead dies.
Yeah.
It's like, foreshadowing.
Absolutely. And I mean, after the opera is over, they're having a brief chat about about Verdi, and they brought up the fact that Verdi was part of the movement to unify Italy. Um,
Yes.
and so, because we've said it on the podcast before, but the phrase "Viva la Verdi" was a very, very common phrase to be hearing, especially during Verdi's lifetime. And it was all about this kind of revolution, creating a better Italy, while still in the guise of being a being a composer's name.
Hmm. And I did appreciate this sort of slight comic beat where you see Charles like kind of looking, giving side eye. It pans to Diana and she's kind of like flirty side eye. They go to a wide shot and there's a chaperone right between them. I appreciated that comic beat. That comic
Oh
beat.
yes.
And this chaperone must have been, had nerves of steel and
Hmm.
just it was like, you will not do anything because they end the date with a handshake.
Yeah.
And I was like, this, and of course she follows and she curtsies to him and calls him, Your
Hmm.
Royal Highness and Sir, and they have a handshake, and I was like, what the hell? This chaperone. But then this is also where I have a question about timeline.
Hmm.
So it opens where they're talking about bringing Margaret Thatcher to Balmoral.
Hmm.
Charles talks about he has to go to Zimbabwe and has to be away for a few weeks. And then all of a sudden, Margaret Thatcher's there, uncomfortable, and then she leaves, and then Diana comes. I'm like, this timeline seems to be a little weird That's one thing. I was like, of course they do it in such a way to where you believe, okay, a lot of time has passed. If Charles is here, okay, then he must be back. But I was like, this timeline just feels a little weird to me. But it's also just general pacing. They needed to move the story along.
Absolutely.
So
and
I
the
understand
Zimbabwe
that.
line was somewhat more of a throwaway line. It wasn't like it was brought up multiple occasions. It was just a one-off. Yeah, I have to be in Zimbabwe for a couple of weeks, and then, so
I'll be back, but I have to go to Balmoral.
yeah,
Maybe when when we're all done, and then we have again another cut to Camilla, Charles and Camilla on the phone. And this is where I was like, what? I was like, Camilla has balls because in one of the wide shots, you see her husband in the background. There's a man in the door. Was like, you are on the phone being not shy at all, talking to the man. And one thing I do appreciate, in thinking back to La Traviata, she wants to be free and be her own thing. Charles wants to be free to love her.
Mm-hmm.
The love for her, the actual deep earnest, and he's like, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her? And they're like, well, for starters, she's married. She's married. And I do appreciate that Camilla was pushing for him to marry Diana. Like, do it. Marry her. She's perfect on paper. Get this over with. I appreciated that, she was very much like, we need to end this, Charles.
Yeah.
I like being friends with you, but this chapter of our life needs to end.
Absolutely.
And so I did appreciate where he's like, well, what do I tell her? And she goes, hi, I'm back early. I'd like to see you. I can't stop thinking about you. Just tell her what she wants to hear.
Yeah.
And so I loved that part where, he kind of sits in this reality of, oh my God. And then Diana comes. And I love her scarf. I love her scarf. This when she comes out of the car and she's talking to the chaperone, we see her scarf, and I loved it. But she fits in with the family just fine. We see the opposite color story happen, where she blends right in. She fits right in. We see her playing all the games with the family. We see her fit in, and one of the things that Emma Corrin talks about in these scenes is she talks about that Diana knew explicitly why she was there. She talks about like, oh, I'm only here. Everybody's talking about the stag, and Philip looks at her and goes, no, we're talking about you, and you being here. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated Emma talking about when I did my research and everything, when she went to Balmoral, she knew why she was going. That's why she brought boots. That's why she brought stocking clothes. That's why she brought this. That's why she wasn't surprised when he said, I want to go. She knew why she was there, and she knew what she needed to do. And I think that's very telling, that because how seamlessly she fits right in, it shows that while I very much, they're presenting this outward story of Diana being very naive, and they're the family's trying to paint this picture. She's this wonderful, naive girl. She's young. She's of great heritage. She's titled. She's this wonderful thing, but she was smart. She knew why she was going there. And I like that Emma talked about that, she knew where she was going. She knew what she was doing. And you can appreciate, because all of a sudden the tone of the episode shifts from this uncomfortable two worlds clashing with aristocrat and sovereign with prime minister and everybody else. The worlds aren't clashing anymore, and we see this harmony happen. And Emma was talking about when she was preparing for this role, she's like, oh yeah, no, Diana knew why she was going there. And I was like, you can very much understand that. But the episode crescendos to where Philip and Diana kill the stag.
Yes.
And it's wonderful victory. The family's going, oh my God, she's great. And then it cuts to a scene later where Charles is kind of being mopey schmopey. Charles, these first two episodes have been really mopey schmopey and kind of just moody. And I'm kind of, I currently like understand you're mourning and you're conflicted and you're going through your own struggles. But a part of me is like, come on, get on board, have fun. But they're trying to paint this picture and tell us that Charles feels very lost in the family. He doesn't know, because he's So I appreciate that. But Anne and Charles had this conversation where Anne's like, dude, what are you doing? Go get her.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that Charles is having these real thoughts of, I barely know her. I want to get to know her more. And Anne's like, you can figure that out later. Get
Yeah.
yourself tied down, marry her. And I appreciated his, hesitation. And then there's a beat, and she goes, what has she said? Hinting at
Mm-hmm.
Camilla.
Yeah.
And I like that all of a sudden both their facades fall. And she goes, what has Camilla said?
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
Absolutely.
But the episode wraps, and we see Charles going to spend more time with Diana. Diana's at
Yeah.
Althorpe, and they're spending more time together. And we see that the Prime Minister has her new cabinet. They take a new photo,
Mm-hmm.
and they set this tone of uncertainty. But there's another point that you don't hear the audio, but we finally see the symbolism of the stag. Before all that happens, we see the stag. Charles gets called out to see Philip, and the stag is being
Skinned.
skinned, and they're going to make the head for it to put on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about tie it down, marry her, she's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And Charles talked about how he's like, I felt like that stag just being ripped and put on a wall and being put in my place. And in some ways that's also kind of like Diana too, where she's
Absolutely.
will eventually be put in her place or attempted to. um but the final shot is that stag being hung on the wall, and there's a medium shot of the dining room where there's the old stag on one end and the
Mm-hmm.
new one on the other,
Yeah.
and then it fades to black.
Yeah.
So, what were some of your favorite moments of the episode? What did you enjoy most in this?
Obviously, I enjoyed the Verdi reference, just because, opera singer. Um, in terms of as a whole of the episode, not looking from an opera singer's perspective, just seeing Diana with the family and seeing how seamlessly she seems to be blending in, and just the
Mm-hmm.
forward, the just her with family games, and it's it was it was so refreshing because of everything we had just seen with Margaret Thatcher and how uncomfortable that was. But it just makes me want better for Diana. Because we
Did you
know
also
the
catch? Did
but
you catch what was playing in the final? So when Charles goes to see Diana and the stag gets put on the wall, did you catch what music was playing?
no.
It was the prelude in Act One of La Traviata. So La
Oh,
Traviata starts the episode, and La
yes.
Traviata ends. So there's
Yes.
still this foreshadowing through line that they're telling with music
Yeah.
that I really love. I
Yes.
I listened to it. I was like, what the hell? And I said, Google, what is this? And it was the ending. And I was like,
Prelude to
you
Actor, yeah.
saw, yeah. It was in the prelude, and it was a prelude in Act One.
Interesting. Interesting.
Very
But
interesting.
yeah. No. The one thing that we did not talk about though, which I feel like we need to talk about, because we actually talked about this before we started filming. Kiss her already, god damn it.
Oh my God, yes, kiss her already. There were so many instances where, especially at the end when she's getting ready to go, and chaperone's in the car, no one's there, and you can feel that sexual tension.
Like she's just ready and waiting for it, but he's like,
Yes, she's
bye.
just bye. I was like, what? I again in my notes I wrote all caps, kiss her already, and you know I everyone loves her,
Yeah.
but you can feel this anxiety with Charles. I really like that they don't allow that anxiety to go away.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate that because we learn that even in their engagement, we as an audience are being presented this fairy tale story,
Hmm.
but behind the scenes, even after he proposes, Camilla is still there.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate that again, in this fun storytelling that Camilla's only this talking head that appears when they're in private.
Yeah. Yeah.
Further informing us that, oh, this is supposed to be private. We're not supposed to know this. So I thought, one, I loved that the pacing of this episode was a lot slower.
Yes.
It was very refreshing that we got to spend more time with everything. Highlight for me is that the episode wasn't afraid to be uncomfortable. They welcomed the uncomfortableness with Margaret Thatcher, with the family, and it really sets up what will then happen in the 80s, where Margaret Thatcher will really start to overstep her bounds.
Yeah.
And really start to piss the Queen off. Earnestly piss the Queen off.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate this sort of warm handling with Diana of, this sort of warm, happy, joyful that very, very quickly will come crashing down.
Yeah. Ugh.
Very,
very
very
comes
quickly.
crashing down.
It comes crashing down. It comes crashing down very, very quickly.
I know.
Because, we'll learn, but Diana doesn't become the Princess of Wales that they want her to be, in that just being obedient to this. She's very much, no, I want to do my own thing. But also Charles doesn't necessarily be the husband that he needs to be. So, but there's going to be this friction that we're going to see that I'm earnestly excited about. That
I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited about seeing it. I just wish that it hadn't happened in real life.
Yes. Yes, because it's a very tragic story.
Yeah.
So as the episode wraps, what were some of your thoughts leaving the episode?
I'm excited to see more Diana. I'm excited to see more butting of heads between Thatcher. I'm excited to see what's going to be happening with Thatcher's new cabinet. Her new staff.
I left this episode, as always, excited to see more. I loved this series. I'm curious to see now, episode 3, from what I've read, is where things begin to amp up with Charles and Diana.
Okay.
We will be spending a little bit more time with them. Another thing that I'm excited about, I'm excited to watch the relationship with the Queen and the Prime Minister fall, because she's had such great relationships with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see she was excited. She was amiable. She wanted to include her, and it didn't work. So I'm curious to see how the show will handle that.
Yeah.
And I'm also, I'm just excited to spend more time with Emma Corrin as Princess Diana. She's, Naomi Watts first tried to be Princess Diana in the film from 2013 about Diana, and it was like her last moments before she tragically passed away. And she didn't really get the accent right. And one thing I really like is Emma Corrin really got the accent down. She looks like her. The accent's great, and her face is so expressive.
Absolutely.
She reminds me a lot of Claire Foy in the first 2 seasons. Her face tells such a great story without anything. You can really see the inner monologue happening, which I really love. See, that's a sign of a great actress.
Yes.
But yes, that episode 2, the Balmoral test. Do we think Margaret Thatcher passed the Balmoral test?
Oh, she failed miserably, but Diana passed with flying colors.
Yeah, passed with flying colors. Margaret Thatcher tried, though, but she didn't. She wasn't really warm. She wasn't really warm to it.
No.
I have a feeling if she was given a different protocol sheet and told what to have, I think it would have been different. But Balmoral test, Margaret Thatcher failed, Diana passed. Do you think you would be able to pass the Balmoral test?
Oh God. It depends on what I'm coming in as. Am I coming in as a potential mate for one of the royalty, or am I coming in as a prime minister?
I would say you're coming in hypothetical situation.
Obviously, this is hypothetical.
Hypothetical situation. You are Diana. You're coming in after a whirlwind of a negative experience with the prime minister. Not bad negative, but just wow, this didn't go over well. Yeah. Do you think you'd be able to pass the Balmoral test?
knowing that I have no hunting expertise whatsoever. God, no. But I feel like I would try my best, and I feel like I would blend as best as I could. But knowing truly one of the big things that really solidified her success in this trip to Balmoral and this test at Balmoral was hunting with Philip, spotting the deer, getting down, stalking it, saying it's going to come from, you're going to want to aim to the right because the wind's coming from the right. Or I forget if it was right or left.
The left.
It was left. The wind is coming from the left. Are you sure about that? Look at the way that the clouds are coming. It's coming from the left. And I wouldn't have been able to help in any of those senses or even probably spot the deer. But in terms of the trying to blend in and not trying to rub people wrong, I feel like I wouldn't have passed with flying colors, but I would have probably passed with like a B minus.
You would have gotten, if it was a jury form where it's pass with reservation, pass with distinction. You know, Diana got pass with distinction. Yeah, you just get the middle pass. You did the thing. You did the thing. I don't know, because I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not a hunter. I don't know these things. I would, tag along as best I can. I'll hold things. Great. I'll hold shit. But as far as actually doing it, no. So I think I'd be right there with you.
Yeah.
Just that middle ground.
That middle ground of just passing. And the thing is, we would both be earnestly trying. And I feel like Thatcher had tried at first, but after showing up to dinner in black tie at, I guess, the wrong time.
It was the right time. It was the right time. Just the family disregarded protocol. Yeah, they just were gonna have tea and wait.
Yeah.
And she came down and they weren't doing it, and I agree there. She tried.
She tried at first, but then she kind of just gave up quickly. It's just like, screw this. I'm just gonna. I don't need this. I don't need their approval. I feel like even if we would have screwed up at first, it's just like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll go change. We're fine. We're good. I'll be down for tea in a couple seconds. Just chill.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like that portrayal of Margaret Thatcher was that she had one obstacle with the royal family and she just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I very much agree with that, where Margaret shut down. Margaret Thatcher shut down, where Diana was just fast and loose and open and was ready to go. And I very much agree with that. We would, but it's also, hindsight's always 2020,
Absolutely.
And that's in the early 80s, when not a lot of people could research what to do at Balmoral.
Yeah.
Kind of kept it very much a secret, and if you knew, you knew. But have we done the thing?
We have done the thing. We have done the thing.
We have done it. So if you liked us, if you want to spend more time with us, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit the share. Sound off in the comments below. What did you think of the episode? And if you want to see more stuff from us here on YouTube, just let us know. If you want to spend even more time with us, head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are distributed, Anchor, tune into Classical Chats. Our previous week, we just got done talking about what makes a great holiday soundtrack. So if you want to hear us... Great holiday album, excuse me. If you want to hear us have fun talking about what makes a great holiday album...
And what doesn't.
Tune in over there. Oh, there's plenty examples of what doesn't. Tune in for the fun.
So, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. And...
Stay musical.
Bye.
Bye.